I was working night shifts for the past 2 weeks, and they are pretty much lonely. I used to work day shifts before, and they were quite better, as there were a lot of employees, and I had made friends as well. For some reason, my boss changed my shifts and told me that this is just temporary, so I was fine with that. One night, I was working late at my office, and all of a sudden, with a loud sound of crash, I jerked up from my desk, startled. The wind was wailing outside, as if it were mourning my fate. My hair had become untied while I slept, which was really strange. The rubber band which I had used to tie it was on the desk. It was completely dark in the office, and I guess that was due to the storm. The power had gone out. I wondered what the noise had been. Then, my eyes went to the floor before me. There were pieces of shattered glass on it. I glanced up at the window and saw that it was broken. But how could that have happened? My office was on the 25th floor. Who could have broken it? The weather was looking bad, and I was thinking of going home now. It was early February, and the atmosphere was chilly. If I caught a cold, I wouldn't even have anyone to tend to me. I wondered if the security guard was still here in the building or not. Suddenly, there was a very loud noise, almost like something really heavy fell down. I was so startled at the sound. It had scared me out of my wits. I called out loudly to whomever was outside. Who's there? It did not sound as bold as it did in my head. The query hung in the air, without a response. My gut told me to leave the office right then. I could just feel that something wasn't right. As I got up, the floor under me began to vibrate, and I struggled to keep my balance. Was it an earthquake? The wind howled in the night all around me. It was almost like someone crying. My heart was beating so loudly that it almost felt as if it would leap out of my chest at any moment. Somehow, I managed to stagger towards the door. I opened it and made a run for the elevator. Even when I was inside and the doors had closed, I could still hear the howling of the wind. It felt as if it were in my head. I was feeling terrified by then. The sound of my heavy breathing echoed loudly in the air. Finally, the elevator came to a halt at the ground floor. When the doors opened, I became paralyzed in fear as I looked before me. There was a wall in front of me, made completely out of soil. I was so scared that I could not breathe properly. I sobbed as I ran my hands on the wall and tried to dig into the soil with my bare hands. I was panicking as I frantically dug into it. I kept digging and digging until my hands touched something solid. I looked at it as the soil fell from around it. What is this? I thought. It was something made from wood. Was it a tree? A door? Then, the realization hit me. My body began to shiver violently as I looked at it in horror. Yes, it was a coffin. There was no mistaking it. With shaking hands, I brushed the remaining soil off the coffin and slowly swung the door open. I looked inside, and my eyes widened in horror at what was before me. It was the decayed corpse of my husband. My watery eyes enlarged, and the hairs on the nape of my neck bristled. A gaggle of goosebumps laminated my frigid skin. My brain had shut down. I was clammy, and there was a cold sweat on my forehead. I breathed in and out, but air wouldn't enter my lungs. Starved for air, my heart raced at tremendous speeds, and my lungs shallowly rose and fell in time. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, but was only 5 minutes. I tried to compose myself, but just then, His eyes shot open, and his mouth hung open. What was left of his teeth fell before me. Maggots were feeding on his flesh. I opened my mouth and shrieked in horror, screaming over and over the words, "Let me out of here!" I woke up screaming. I froze. It took me a minute to realize that it was nothing but a bad dream. I breathed and clutched at my chest, feeling my heart thumping wildly. That was some vivid nightmare.